Week 12 NFL action right here at sportsbookreview.com. This is the closing line, and boy, do we have a show for you today. Ins and outs, not really many weather concerns, but how about who's actually just showing up to play in the Mile High City? I'm Donnie Seymour, he's Kyle Purviance, and we are going to get after it, carrying you right through to the 1 o'clock kickoffs. I'm excited, Kyle.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of interesting stuff today. And look, if I'm the Denver Broncos right now, I am just having anyone with COVID spit in my face, throw it in my hair, whatever I could do. What a weird message by the NFL, right? Hey, if you just blatantly break everything and have 20 players on COVID, we'll do everything we can to make sure that we, cater to your needs. But if you have 1, 2, or 3 and your whole position group's out, so you didn't really go overboard, nope, you're playing without a quarterback. Welcome in Kendall Hinton. The Broncos were trying to get one of their coaches to play quarterback, and the league said no. Look, I'm not a Broncos fan, but something smells fishy in the NFL. Maybe they can change their name to the Ravens and be treated like a professional franchise. Very bizarre to me, but I am excited for today. I think there's some great spots.
Yeah, there are some good spots here. And again, we get that little pep in our step here, Kyle, when we show up on a Sunday and not many weather concerns to worry about. So it's always nice. You don't have to factor it in being DFS guys and you like to bet team totals and team total overs and game total overs. That's what we like to do. So we're going to get a pretty clean slate out here. I'll tell you what is a really clean slate. A nice smooth number here, Kyle. 75,000 even have subscribed to our sportsbookreview.com channel each and every day. Hundreds more subscribers. We are on our way to 100,000. Thank you guys for checking in with us. Markel, Melissa, David, Cody, James, Saints fan, Steve-O, AP, Akbar, Eric, welcome in. And we are going to get it started here. Have some fun today. But also, guys, if you haven't got in the Pick Six contest yet, you can still get in. Again, I say this, probably not going to be able to run the table and win since we're in week 12 through 16, but you can win those weekly prizes. Hit that link below, sprpicks.com/NFL. Takes you to all our content right here at sportsbookreview.com, designed to make you a better NFL gambler. And we are going to get underway in Atlanta. 251, 252, Las Vegas comes to town versus the Atlanta Falcons. The line opens up here offshore at SBRodds.com at -2.5. And we've seen a big increase here because you're working now through a key number. When we were doing our shows, Kyle, Tuesday and also Friday, this number was hovering around that 3 range. It's finally broken through to -3.5. And I like to lead in this when we talked about it last week. The last drive of the football game, Julio Jones hurts his hamstring. He's going to be questionable all week. He's going to try to give it a go. Athletes and their hamstrings are doomsday. No longer is he going to play today being Julio Jones, and that's why that number is moving around. The 56s, which I already thought were high early in the week, dipping down to 53. Kyle, I still think it plays to the under 53, but also obviously that number's gone, the 3.5s. I still think the Raiders are going to be able to win this football game and cover. I know I saw the quote-unquote sharp money coming on Atlanta. I always like to bet teams when their best player doesn't play because that's apparently sharp to do. I won't do that. I like the Vegas Raiders today.
Oh, yeah, I like the Raiders quite a bit. I mean, Atlanta's a dumpster fire. I mean, let's just call it what it is. And Matt Ryan, his arm looks dead. And now no Julio Jones, which was going to give you that big play threat. Then you have your, even though Todd Gurley is not, the Todd Gurley that he used to be, you lose him. So now you're relying on Brian Hill and Ito Smith. That's the weakness of the Raiders. They're bad against the run. They're not a great defensive team. But now it's what? Calvin Ridley, is he all the way healthy? We don't know. Hayden Hurst didn't practice all week. He's going to play. He's going to go ahead and give it a go. Alameda, Zacchaeus. I like the way the Raiders are trending. I think they're a better football team. I think they're better coached. I can't believe I'm saying this. I think Derek Carr is better than Matt Ryan. If you'd have told me I would have said that at the beginning of the year, I would have said, I would have called myself crazy. But I just think the Raiders are a better team. I was happy I got them at 3 earlier in the week. The 3.5 I still feel fine with. I think the Raiders win this game, and I think they do it convincingly. So give me the Raiders today.
Yeah, I'm not. I already don't like what I saw out of Atlanta because, again, you're talking about business decision games now. But you're heading down the backstretch, teams that aren't in it. Now COVID really comes into it because, hey, wasn't going to go up to the club or hang with my boys, but since we're out of it, if I get it, I'll still get paid. It's no big deal, and we're really done for the rest of the season. But having looked at this game back and forth, I think Vegas is markedly more talented. You have a nice 1-2 combo at running back. Offensive line shouldn't be that big of an issue because Atlanta doesn't bring that much. But I get back to the game last week going up against the New Orleans Saints. Honest to God, it looked like that offense quit and Matt Ryan wanted nothing to do with, dropping back 35, 40 times, which he's probably going to have to do today, again, without Julio Jones. it doesn't look good because even Todd Gurley's now. I didn't like Todd Gurley anyway, but it's still a
Sure.
veteran running back that's able to pick up blitzes for you. Now you go down the hill as your other option. I just don't see it as a great game. It wasn't really on my radar, so to speak, but in my pick six contest, I did take the Vegas Raiders, and I think that's going to be a decent look today. Cutter checking in as well as Dubai in the chat box. So
that's
a lot of people joining us early, a couple minutes into the show. Much respect for coming in here and hanging with us. But it's like, does anybody out there in the chat box actually like Atlanta just because, hey, everybody likes the Raiders, so I'll just take the Falcons? I just don't see all that much unless you're just saying, oh, one of those ready. West Coast team coming east, 1 o'clock. Body clock's not going to be ready. I don't even think they need a body clock for this actual game here. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do agree with both of the line movements, 56 to 53, 2.5 as a side, up to 3.5. I think that's about right. 253, 254. Worrying about it all week long, talking on the shows. Kyler Murray, what are we going to get out of him? Looks like he's rip-raring and ready to go off of the injury report on Friday. When we did our show here, or NFL show on Friday, it looked like that was trending in that direction. But here's not what's trending in that same direction. -1, it opened up. We saw as high as 2.5. I saw 2s across the board even earlier this morning. We're now down to -1. So we are believing in Cam Newton and the New England Patriots in this game. Taking a look at SBRodds.com, even with the ticket count here, 6 out of every 10, 7 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on Arizona. That number is dropping. Also, Kyle, the over-under, which opened up at 49, we're now seeing that go higher in that 51 range at Pinnacle, 50.5 primarily across the board. I do think we get points today, but sometimes I just don't want to be left holding the bag because Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, there's such a wild card on what type of offense they want to run and how they want to dictate to offenses, where if they open the offense up, it should easily get to that 50-point range. Up here in the Northeast, it's great weather, but I can just see that ground and pound, slow it down, keep Kyler Murray on the sidelines and see what happens. I still like Arizona in this game. I was fooled last week. Hey, let's, New England should be able to win this game against Houston. They come up absolutely lame. So are we supposed to go back and double down and back up this New England game? Or are we going to take those young, fresh faces over there in Arizona? It's square as hell. I still go with the Cardinals in this game because I'm so tired of just looking at New England saying, are they in or are they out? Yeah,
well, the thing is, and look in the chat box, yes, fire up Fitzmagic today in DFS. Absolutely, fire him up. If you saw our show yesterday, absolutely 100% fire him up. New England, every time I think New England's going to win, they lose. Every time I think they're going to lose, they win. New England's been the bane of my existence this year. But there's I just can't trust New England. I know they're at home. I know it's West Coast to East Coast. I know Kyler Murray had the shoulder issue, a couple receivers out due to COVID. I actually think it's a good thing for the explosiveness of that offense to replace Fitzgerald with a speedster in Andy Isabella. I think that gives them a little bit of advantage, especially when you've got guys like, Gilmore and J.C. Jackson making things a little more difficult on the perimeter. I like Arizona. I just think they're a better football team. I like Kyler Murray. He's, probably my favorite young quarterback. Kyler Murray is absolutely phenomenal. I like that they took him off the injury report. I like that everyone's starting to trend towards New England because I'm going to stick with Arizona. Now, the one concern is Arizona's defense is bad, but where are they really, really weak is in that secondary, the tertiary spots outside of Patrick Peterson with Kirkpatrick and Byron Murphy. Are you worried about Cam Newton exploiting that? Not so much. I got to take Arizona. I think you're right. There probably are points, but again, if I'm looking at a number in the 50s and I'm relying on a, shorthanded Patriots offense without one of their Swiss Army knives there in Rex Burkhead, I got to go Arizona. And unfortunately, I got 2.5 earlier in the week. I wish I would have waited, but I still think they win by more than a field goal. I'll take the Cardinals.
You know what it also comes down to, too, when you take a look at a quarterback like Kyler Murray. I mean, young guy, shorter guy, so you want to keep him in the pocket, but also an explosive pass rush might be able to, mess things up a little bit. That's the exact opposite of New England's pass rush. He's going to have all day to work around, make as many plays as he can. And I guess, having Stephon Gilmore back into the lineup that you can sort of shadow Nuke Hopkins makes a little bit of a difference, but there's still a lot of speed out there for Arizona, and you can only cover great wide receivers for so long. If the pressure's coming in, you got to get rid of the football immediately. That's completely different. But if you have Kyler Murray stepping side to side, rolling out of the pocket, waiting, you can't cover everybody all the way across the field. I don't care how good your defensive coordinator, Bill Belichick / defense is at this point. So if we're looking at the game overall, I still like Arizona. It's a very square pick, but Arizona just doesn't play under type games for me. You just can't get really bad Cam Newton and 16 plays, 71 yards, 8 minutes off the clock offense. But the problem is sometimes New England might play for that. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But I do lean towards the over and also Arizona in this game. We'll keep it moving here. to Cincinnati, 255, 256, the Giants and the Cincinnati Bengals. Allen is going to be in at quarterback. Gio Bernard, fire him up. He's in this game. But coming off kick, I mean, you're only nicked up a little bit. You get dinged up in the first quarter. All the signs I'm looking at for Cincinnati of why you want to back an underdog technically aren't there. One, you have an awful defense. Two, you have a quarterback I don't have much faith in that's going to be able to operate this offense as well as Joe Burrow did. And also you have no Mixon in the lineup, who's been out for quite a few weeks now, and Gio Bernard, who's really banged up. So if you had your smallish running back coming back and his problem is he's a little foggy from concussions, does that say, Kyle, let's give this guy 20 touches in this football game and see what he can do? It doesn't really feel like a magic elixir to the pathway toward a victory. Over-under opens up at 43, has moved north. 45s here at Pinnacle, 45 at Rivers in Pennsylvania, Bet 365 in New Jersey, 45. So that number is steadily going up because, again, in the NFL, man, 44, 43s, everything has to go right in order to hit that. I do think Daniel Jones and that Giants offense should be able to operate against a Cincinnati defense that hasn't been able to stop anybody. But the question being, where we've always liked the Giants, Kyle, throughout the season is the underdog role. Now you're expected to go on the road and pick up a victory by about 7 points or more to get this cover. What it comes down to, I don't want to outsmart myself because I think I'm going to get an honest effort out of the New York Giants. I don't want a wild card effort out of a really bad football team and say, well, I was hoping Allen would be good and the defense could make some stops. I'm not into that. So I do have a lean on the Giants in this football game. 45 seems about right because the Giants aren't that up-tempo team. Hand it off to Wayne Gallman, move the sticks. Daniel Jones, 3rd and 6, good enough to run for 10 yards and pick up the first down to keep the chains moving. But my question is, Kyle, to you, last week we saw Cincinnati in the second half. They didn't do that. Once Joe Burrow went out, they actually had the lead when Burrow went out. Once the second half took underway, they were horrendous on offense. And I'm not so sure that offense just picks up with a new quarterback with a week of practice here.
Yeah, not just a new quarterback, but, a grossly inexperienced quarterback that, was their third guy. He wasn't beating out Ryan Finley in practice to be the number 2 guy. Then they see one bad half against a very good Washington team, and Zach Taylor makes a boneheaded move and goes to Brandon Allen. So we just don't know what we're going to get out of Brandon Allen. And even though, I don't think the Giants are a great team, they are certainly more competent than Cincinnati. When you look on the outside, James Bradberry is going to shut down either T. Higgins, AJ Green, whomever he faces out there. James Bradberry has been playing great. I think if you're playing DFS, and I know everyone and their mama, as we like to say, is going to be all over that Saints defense right today in DFS. I think the Giants are a nice pivot, 600 cheaper on DraftKings at 3,200. I think the Giants win this game. Do I feel very uncomfortable taking Daniel Jones and the Giants and Joe Judge and the rest of them by, a touchdown? I do, but there's absolutely no way I could put any money on Cincinnati this week without knowing what we're going to get out of the quarterback. And I do think that Giants defense is sort of a big play defense. I like what Bradbury does. I think the Giants is the lean here. I'm not touching that total just because I don't know what kind of effort we're going to get out of Brandon Allen at quarterback. So if they're scoring, between 7 and 13 points, do I trust the Giants to get into the 30s? That makes me a little bit nervous, so I'll just lean the Giants. I actually have the Giants as a money line parlay piece and one of those, big parlays that I do just to be safe. But I think if you're betting a side here, you got to take the Giants.
Taking a look here in the chat box, Enno says, do you worry about teams on the road after a holiday away from family? No, not in this type of thing. Maybe if you're talking like in the NBA where they're, in and out for a day and they want to do something. These guys are prepped for this. They've spent their entire careers basically, away on Thanksgivings and all that stuff. So I don't put much into it. And also keep in mind, this is a different NFL this season because there are no fans. So it's not like you're getting a jolt or a boost or, oh man, these guys are booing the hell out of me all day long, which can even help the home team, specifically my Philadelphia Eagles. If they stink and there's no fans there, technically they don't know they stink because nobody's booing them outside of their boy on the sideline saying, hey man, you dropped that pass, you got to get better than that. So that's obviously an indicator, which when we talk about capping different scenarios from year to year, we really got lucky with these younger quarterbacks and these road teams able to operate in hostile atmospheres that aren't hostile this year. And I'm not saying Cincinnati is a hostile atmosphere in the jungle out there, but when you take a look at the New York Giants, if we saw that team total, Kyle, 23.5, 24.5 in that range, normally I would say sign me up, even though the Giants don't have a high octane offense, but Joe Burrow would at least push the issue. So you have that back and forth in the second half where the Giants can't just say, hey, Allen can't move the football. We're up 7 in the fourth quarter. Let's just run this clock and punt it deep, and we don't have to worry about it. Where it's if you had a functioning offense, the Giants would have to respond and certainly score more. But again, like the New York Giants in this game, man, I can't. It's so hard to say I want under 45, but it just plays out that way. When we do our scenarios, Kyle, more likely 34-24 Giants or 24-17 Giants,
Oh, 100% 24-17 Giants, right?
Yeah.
And you might even be hard pressed to get I like all the Bengals weapons. I like their receivers, Higgins and Green and Boyd. I like all of them. Giovanni Bernard, I think, is a fine, receiving sort of scat back out of the backfield and veteran experience. Yep. But when you're playing a third string quarterback who's never started an NFL game, who, it was kind of a surprise to everybody, I think, when they announced him as the starter. You just don't know what you're going to get. So too many unknowns for me to feel great about going the over. Like, I would lean the under. I stayed away from it just because I don't know, but I still think the Giants are a better team. If Burrow was there, obviously you would take the 6.5. But if you look, when this line opened up when Burrow was there, Bengals were 2.5-point favorites. So you're sort of getting this 8 or 9 point swing here with quarterback. And I think that's right, because Burrow was so good. We'll just have to see what we get out of Brandon Allen. Kind of an iffy spot. For the most part, I would stay away from this. You just don't know what you're going to get. But I do think the Giants win the game, which is why I made them a money line parlay piece.
Yeah, because when you're looking at the Giants also, let's take a look at move ahead, like the NFC East Championship. In order to win, these teams are all bad in the NFC East, but in order to win, you still like to get some breaks go your way. And if you're a Giants fan or a Giants player, you see Burrow go down, hey, we play him next week. This is going to be really nice to go up against a third or fourth string quarterback. So you do need those bumps and bruises to go in your direction. Should be, I don't even want to say an interesting game, because we have a lot better games coming up, but not necessarily the next one we're actually going to talk about. 257-258 Cleveland going on the road to take on Jacksonville. And, usually in week 17 of the NFL, I like to say it's my favorite week of the NFL because it's the easiest to read, where coaches tip their hands on Mondays. Outside of that, you sort of have to read between those tea leaves and say, where am I going to get the value at and who's coming back? So I always like to be an open book on how I cap and look. I have Jacksonville on my big board circled right off the bat, as I was so excited to see Cleveland come to town without the best football players on defense. No Myles Garrett rushing the passer. Denzel Ward down. Ronnie Harrison already banged up. Sendejo might not have made it to the starting gate, as we were talking on Monday and Tuesday. And I had that big circle on Jacksonville, not as an underdog, but taking a team total, finally getting back into good weather. Put out those statistics early in the week, like, in those windy, rainy games, or the 16-6. Hey, Cleveland's defense looks great. But if you look past the facade of the games that actually are played in regular weather, they get lit up. So I was expecting Gardner Minshew to come back for this football game. He's actually inactive today. Now you're going, forget about the rookie that you want to see what he can do. You go to Mike Glennon, which I don't understand NFL franchises' theories overall, because if you stink, the goal of the franchise is, let's see what we have as we operate into the offseason. It's not, let's go back and put this 30-year-old guy out here with half of our wide receiving core down and see if we can win a football game. That line goes to 6, now up to 7s, some 7.5s out here. But the line movement that I agree with is finally coming down, because we talked about the opener, Kyle, 49 is a total. That went up to around that 50 range, but now they'll buy back at 48. And I agree. Cleveland's going to be able to do whatever they want on offense, but the same thing goes that we always like to say, you don't have much pushback, at least I don't think, from Jacksonville today. If you had a Gardner Minshew fully healthy offense operating against Cleveland, Baker Mayfield and that offense would have to answer the bell and probably would easily drop 30 on Jacksonville, because you would get pushback from the other side. I don't think that's going to be the case in this game, so I do lean under, even though that Jacksonville defense is banged up and horrendous. I think Cleveland wins this football game by double digits, but I think the scoring stays down here.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Now, we've seen before, Mike Glennon has had some of these like big passing days back when he was with the Raiders. But how much are you trusting that? And again, no Denzel Ward, no Myles Garrett. Huge losses for that Cleveland defense. And then on offense, I mean, outside of the running backs, do you really love the weapons there? Landry, Higgins, Peoples-Jones. They barely go to Austin Hooper. Baker Mayfield isn't very good. One would say, I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks I'd rather have than Baker Mayfield, unless I'm making a commercial. So I always feel a little nervous taking Cleveland by more than a touchdown, especially on the road, because it's hard to trust Baker. But Jacksonville is so absolutely dreadful. No Chris Conley, no DJ Chark. I think you're right. I think you got to lean Cleveland again. That's another square. I think that's actually a less square pick, because I think it's hard to trust Cleveland after what we've seen out of the team. Now, they were playing in horrific weather conditions, and so that's one thing to certainly consider. But there's absolutely no way you can put your money on the Mike Glennon to Keelan Cole connection to cover or win anything. I'm sorry, you just cannot do it. So you got to take Cleveland, and I think you're right. I think the 48 is too high. I think that should be more around that giant Cincinnati total there, the 44.5, 45. It's a bit too high. Take the under, and I'm with you. I like the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it should have a layup here because when you take a look at teams or weather conditions, they don't operate that well. Talking about the Cleveland Browns, but when they play bad defenses, I mean, Cincinnati, they hung 37 on, they hung 49 on Dallas earlier in the season, 34 points on Washington before they got it together, 35 points on Cincinnati early in the season. Yeah. So it's one of those where you level up and get into your weight class, you struggle like with the Pittsburghs of the world, the Baltimores of the world. But then when you get down into the lower ranks here, specifically what they're going to be seeing today from the Jacksonville Jaguars in good weather, they should be able to move the football, and they have that nice 1-2 punch at running back that if they can work off of play action, a lot of things could open up. But again, if you're up double digits in the second half and you're not getting a lot of push from Jacksonville, maybe you're not taking those deep shots. Maybe you're saying, hey, Chubb, man, pick up 5 yards here. Let's just keep the chains moving. Or even like that second one or third and one where you work off of play action and try that deep shot. Maybe you don't do that and just keep the chains moving in this game. Let's go up to Minnesota today. Big COVID concerns here specifically for the wide receiver Adam Thielen, who's not going to be available today, which is one of those key cogs in a Minnesota offense that does operate and put up points when fully healthy. Two really good wide receivers. Average offensive line, but obviously we know that key cog in that offense is Dalvin Cook that can do whatever at any time to any team, and he's not going up against a great defense today in Carolina. 6 out of every 10 tickets here at SBRodds.com coming in on the Minnesota Vikings. They open up as a 3.5-point favorite, and early in the week, Pick 6 contest, I already took the 3.5 with the Carolina Panthers. That's now threes with really light juice across the board. An over-under count that opened up at 49.5, 50, now sits at 51 across the board in this game. So actually, no, it looks like more 50s as opposed to the 51.5. So a little bit of a downgrade there. But when we're taking a look at Carolina as an underdog role, typically usually good. But the fact that now Kirk Cousins has that safety blanket that's always open, making ridiculous catches, one-handed catches in the end zone to keep the offense moving, you take that off the field and BC Johnson comes in, which, certainly a downgrade from Adam Thielen at this point. Jefferson is a fantastic rookie, but now he's going to be asked to be that A-level rookie. Are we keeping it on the ground to Dalvin Cook, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think Carolina can hang around in this football game. And if I'm looking for a money line shot, this is when I take my chance on here. I like the 3.5, took him in the Pick 6 contest. Still like it at the 3 as it sits today, and also think they have a legitimate shot to win this football game. So a little bit of a money line action spot here for the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This line's backwards. Carolina should be the favorite in this game. I know it's in Minnesota, but what has Minnesota done to make you think they should be favored against a Carolina team that's getting their quarterback back? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, Minnesota just lost to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they just lost to Dallas, and we were able to predict that because we know that Minnesota is so inept on defense. The only thing they have going for them outside of Adam Thielen is Dalvin Cook, who's obviously, in my opinion, the best running back in football. But, I mean, look, at quarterback, who would you rather have, Bridgewater or Cousins? I'll take Bridgewater. Their wide receivers, especially minus Thielen, I'll take Carolina. Defensively, I'll take Carolina. I don't understand why Minnesota is the favorite. I think you are absolutely right. It's a great pick to take the points. I think it's a great value on the money line. I think Carolina wins this football game. I just don't understand why the Vikings are favorites. I just think they're for some reason people can't get over the fact that they're just not very good this year. And that defense, that young secondary, we're moving on from Xavier Rhodes, we're moving on from all these veterans. Well, it hasn't worked out all that well. They're bad defensively. They're mediocre offensively outside of Dalvin Cook. I like the Carolina Panthers today, and I like the revenge spot for Teddy Bridgewater coming back to Minnesota and beating his old team.
Yeah, if Adam Thielen was playing in this game, boy, I really would be a buyer in the over, because when you take a look at Minnesota when they're right, and certainly playing in a dome, no fans, no weather conditions to worry about, you still put up 28 points last week against the Dallas Cowboys. Chicago, you only put up 19 points, but that's a really good defense. Before that, 34 against Detroit, 28 versus Green Bay. They got hammered against Atlanta 40-23, but that offense and the play action operates much better when you have those two wide receivers working in unison. I still do like the over a little bit here at that 50 number, because when you take two bad football teams and you don't have any weather conditions together, I just actually want to see what I'm getting out of Teddy Bridgewater in this game, Kyle, because if I'm getting the Teddy I'm used to that can roll around in the pocket, because you have a lot of weapons. One of the more unheralded wide receiving cores in the NFL to me is the Carolina Panthers for how many things they can actually do. Still have, say, well, I don't want to take them with Christian McCaffrey not in. Still viable running back options here. If I'm getting a healthy Teddy Bridgewater, they'll be able to move the football in this game. So something to keep an eye out for early. And as we always like to stress as well, 10 years ago, we weren't betting in game. So if you see Teddy Bridgewater on the opening, few series where he's in the pocket looking timid, maybe you might want to back out. But if he's rolling out of the pocket, normal Teddy Bridgewater might be a decent overlook to take a look at here. Good game here in the AFC South, Kyle. 261, 262. Tennessee and Indianapolis. Ryan Tannehill going to try to come back for more and improve on that bad effort that the Tennessee Titans had last time we saw them against the Indianapolis Colts. But now we see Phillip Rivers, who doesn't move anyway, but he has the foot injury. And it's alarming when you see the head coach say, I don't think he's going to have any issues on Sunday, bothered him a little bit during the week. It's hard because still, has anybody had a toe injury, a broken toe, a foot injury? Oh. You're moving around on turf. I know they can give you some painkillers for it, but any little thing can throw you off, specifically for a quarterback who's not mobile, who needs to buy his time in the pocket. Maybe Phillip Rivers gets the ball out a little bit earlier because he can't get away or can't make the necessary moves. I still like Indianapolis, because every time I get them in a dome, in good weather, or at home, they're almost a lock to put in that high 20s, low 30s as a team total. And I don't think that's going to stop today against Tennessee. The one thing I do think that helps out for an Indianapolis team total, if you're even looking in that direction, is the fact that Indianapolis is down a couple key defensive linemen in this game, which means Tennessee should be able to move the football. This game was all lined up for me, Kyle, to take a over of that 50 to 51 that we're looking at. If I actually got Adam Humphries in the slot, and he said, well, Adam Humphries, what's he got to do with it? When you look at those guys that can be wide open over the middle repeatedly just to move the sticks, that opens everything up in your game. I still think Tennessee gets an honest effort in this game and is able to put up points. That 23.5 team total, they should be able to get into the mid-20s, but at the same time, Tennessee is not stopping Indianapolis in this football game. You're going to get even more of Nyheim Hines in this game, which is a wonderful thing for that Colts offense. I still like the over at 51, and I'm not backing off Indianapolis at home, but not be surprised if Tennessee ends up in that mid-20s range and gets their team total, though.
Yeah, and you mentioned the two defensive linemen, DeForest Buckner, et cetera. That's a big loss. And so I do think – I've been on the Colts all week. You and I were on the Colts the last time these two teams played a couple weeks ago. I do want to point out, sometimes people in the chat, I don't want people to get confused if they're following the chat. Someone said Adam Thielen's, going to be a game time decision. No, he is not. He's already inactive. So don't listen to that guy or gal.
Well, it was a game time decision. So
the game time decision is he's not playing. He's out with COVID. So that's that. End of story there. Tennessee, Indianapolis. Look, I've had more toe injuries than I care to talk about. They're absolutely painful. But the real concern for me is, how do you stop Derrick Henry when you don't have two of your better defensive linemen, including your best defensive lineman? I know Darius Leonard is fantastic. So it's starting to make me nervous about this Colts team. When everything is right, when they're in good weather, when the offensive line is right, their defense is healthy, the Colts are one of the most well-rounded and better teams in the league. When you have, and they just dominated Tennessee, we saw it. And Tennessee's, the Colts are also going to be without Jonathan Taylor, so you're going to get more Nyheim Hines in the offense, which I think is good. We sort of saw what he did against the Titans a couple weeks ago. This one's making me a lot more nervous than it was earlier in the week. Earlier, I was, Colts. Yep, I think they both get in the 20s. I'll take the over. Now I'm starting to lean towards, it makes a lot of sense for me that Tennessee is a live dog in this game. I do think they have a chance to win this one outright. I still sort of lean towards the Colts. I'm staying away from this game now. I'm way too nervous without Buckner the more I think about it, and the more I sort of watch Derrick Henry run. We saw what he did against Baltimore, another good run-stopping team without their defensive line. He was able to dominate that team. I'm leaning now the Titans to cover. I'm sort of flip-flopping during the week, but I'm just too nervous without Buckner. And if Rivers is even more immobile than he already is, makes me even more nervous. Not that he can't move, but that he panics and sort of lobs the ball up to some of these, those little dead ducks that Phillip Rivers throws. By the way, how is the toe, Phillip? How is it feeling before?
I actually just kicked my fan under my desk, so it's kind of banged up.
It's banged up a little bit. Okay, very good. Yeah,
do I have to buy a Phillip Rivers jersey before the season is out? By the way,
you absolutely need to. You absolutely need to. It's the best thing all year. And I think there's a shot. I need to double check this, that Adoree Jackson could return this week, which will help.
He's out.
Oh, they did rule him out. Okay. Yeah. I know they were thinking about playing him this week. So I still slightly lean towards the Colts, but I'm a lot more nervous about it. And I do think Tennessee is a live dog if you're looking for some value on the money line.
You can't disagree. And also, the Colts have absolutely dominated this franchise, being the Tennessee Titans over the past decade.
Yes,
we'll see if that continues today. But I always like Phillip Rivers in a dome, because the one thing we know when you're putting honest money down, specifically, I like both of these coaches a lot, but I have an affinity for Frank Reich. I mean, this guy has his team ready to go in every circumstance. They should be able to put some points up, but I do think Tennessee will be live in this one and will be able to wear down that front. Why do we know Darius Leonard is a fantastic linebacker? Because he has a dominant defensive tackle that lets nobody get through to him, and he can clean everything up. Let's see how good Darius Leonard is today on the field. That's a fun game to watch. And now one of the higher scoring games, at least we thought probably would be one of the higher scoring games today, the Chargers and the Buffalo Bills. Justin Herbert is on an absolute tear in the NFL, averaging 300 yards passing per game, going up against a defense that hasn't played all that well, but now got some time to get rested and ready. Maybe that pass rush comes to town and says, hey, we're not going to let this rookie just pass all over us. We'll see if that happens. A huge boost to the running game, specifically the passing game out of the backfield. Austin Eckler is active for this game for the Chargers. The Buffalo Bills, as we said, down John Brown, which is not a good sign. Most people don't really pay too much attention to John Brown, but that offensive, the efficiency, the numbers, the points they put up when he's in the lineup as opposed to when he's out of the lineup is certainly something to keep an eye on. This line opened up early in the week, 5s. We saw 5.5s, Kyle. Now we're seeing 4s across the board, and I'm still sticking to it. I think the Chargers will be live in this football game, even with those injuries. Melvin Ingram going to sit down. Hayward's going to sit down this game. You do get Chris Harris Jr. back, but you want him back when you have your other cornerback on the opposite side of the field. So it's almost like, I don't know what I'm getting out of Chris Harris Jr. after missing a couple weeks, and now I'm not going to be without another cornerback on my back end. But this comes down to me where I do think Herbert's going to do well. Keenan Allen, they have great wide receivers, decent tight end, average offensive line, and now you give that boost to the running game where now you swing it out of the backfield. You're not getting like 1 or 2 yards. You have a chance to bust a big play. We'll see how active Austin Eckler will be in this football game. I do think Moss will have a pretty good running game going against the defense that is very susceptible, Kyle, to everything. The running game, the tight end, the wide receivers. The Chargers don't stop all that much. I think we do get points in this game, but I'm kind of interested to see why. Why is it only a 51? Like we see other games out here, 55s across the board, 52s across the board, 53 in that Atlanta game. You're looking at two quarterbacks that can really get off against two defenses that haven't put up much of a defense. And we're talking about being in Buffalo, 50-degree weather, light winds in late November. This game has such an overfeel, but I like it's a dog here.
Yeah, I can't take the Chargers as a dog because I don't think they know how to win football games. I simply don't. I mean, they almost blew a lead to the Jets. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. But just to give you some context on that over, I took over 53 earlier in the week. I think both these teams definitely get into the 20s, and one of them gets into the 30s. I think this certainly plays to an over. The fact that it's at 51.5 now and 51s, I think you smash that over button. And look, Buffalo, no John Brown, you are absolutely right. The offense is so much more efficient when it's John Brown and not Gabriel Davis. But that Chargers defense is just not very good. No Melvin Ingram today as well. I just can't trust the Chargers. I don't trust their coaching staff. I love Justin Herbert. He's going to play well, no doubt about it. I think both of these young quarterbacks play very well. I like the over in this game. But Buffalo, now that it's dropped down to 4 especially, I just like the Buffalo Bills. They seem to know how to win. They're at home. You got the Chargers going to the East Coast. No fans certainly helps the Chargers. They just don't know how to win games, especially against good football teams. I got to take Buffalo, and I think they get it done by a touchdown.
Yeah, look, I mean, everyone on the Chargers, why is that Bills number going down? It's pretty much what we're talking about there because, no John Brown in that offense. You're getting a very active Chargers offensive team, and the Bills haven't shown up yet on defense. You're saying, finally, this is where we put this to an end. Now, that could happen today. Rested and ready pass rush. You get a lot of film on the young kid. It's still rookie on the road coming on the East Coast. He's an Oregon kid playing mostly Pac-12 football. You actually would have liked to see this weather 32, 33 degrees if you're a Buffalo Bills guy because Josh Allen doesn't give a damn about that. Playing in Wyoming and then obviously now for the Buffalo Bills. But that, California type kid that looks like a surfer would have been interesting to see in that change up in the environment. Not going to get that today. So I do think we're going to get some scoring and we'll see where that line ends up. But I agree with the line movements here. But you're right. Early in the week, just looking at Pinnacle, 53.5, 54s on that steam, now pushing it lower. It's interesting because what that usually would mean is somebody key is out as an injury for the game. Now we know John Brown is out, but also weather conditions, not any of that. So an interesting one to watch, but DFS people certainly going to be fired firing up a lot of players in that football game. 265, 266. We wanted it all week, Kyle. We got it. No Tua Tagovailoa in this game. Ryan Fitzpatrick returns. Jakeem Grant, who was iffy this week, he's going to give it a go, and that's big. So now you compare up two decent wide receivers, one Jakeem Grant with a really good wide receiver on the opposite side with Devontae Adams. Now you're looking at Gesicki back into the offensive flow, as well as Shaheen. They have a really good set of guys that can do some damage to one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. It'll be interesting to see if Matt Breida, how he does in this football game, because they're banged up with a lot of injuries. Myles Gaskin actually got activated this week, but will not play in this football game. We opened up at that 7 range. It's funny, like soon as your starters and it's like, hey, we're going to go back with Tua, the line drops down to 6, Fitzpatrick back in. Now we're seeing 7s and 7.5s across the board. But I got to say, I'm interested in looking at what the Jets have to offer today. 3 wide receivers back, Sam Darnold healthy, Adam Gase saying he's taking back the play calling duties. Maybe this is a kitchen sink game saying, don't fire me, front office. Look what I can do when some of my guys are healthy, which leads me to taking an over in this game, which was sitting at that 44 range. Now we're seeing 45. 45.5. I do agree with that. I think the Miami Dolphins put up points, but I think the Jets might be sneaky and be able to counter enough to score to get that over the 45. That's the way I'm looking at this game.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jets team total over 19.5 too. I'm going for it, baby. I like Jamison Crowder when Sam Darnold plays our Lego policeman. And how about this, Donnie? Over 620 people now live with us in the show. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you, people.
Do not make me call up Flash and have him get in here and tell you guys to hit the thumbs up. So 624 people, 70 thumbs up. Help us out. Hit the like button. And, if you hate my face like most people do, you can hit the thumbs down. But we prefer the thumbs up. Thank you all so much for being in here. Yeah, Fitzpatrick being in it made me so happy when I saw that news yesterday. Now, look, I like Tua. I think he's going to be a fantastic quarterback in the future. But right now, that Miami offense is far more dynamic when Ryan Fitzpatrick plays. True. Let's not also forget he used to play for the Jets, a little revenge narrative here. Adam Gase. Nobody in Miami likes Adam Gase. I actually think the Dolphins cover now. I was really, really nervous about this earlier in the week. Like, 7.5 with Tua and the way that offense looks. I was going to take the Jets. But now that we get Fitzmagic, Jakeem Grant's going to play. Devontae Parker should dominate that secondary. I've seen a lot of questions on that. I love Devontae Parker today in DFS. I think he's priced just right. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick today in DFS as well. And you're absolutely right. The over absolutely comes into play. When you bring Fitzpatrick in, I think the Jets are able to get into the 20s. I certainly think the Dolphins do because I think they cover the spread. The over is the play here. This feels like a 30 to 20, 30 to 21 type game. Give me the Dolphins. Give me Fitzmagic. I believe. I'm actually excited for this game. I might even turn off Red Zone and just watch my DFS lineup prosper as I play Fitzmagic and Parker with Jamison Crowder coming back the other way. Enjoy the goodness. I like the Dolphins, and I like the over in this one.
As we just were firing up how much we like the over, Chris goes from a 45.5 to now 46. Right. So maybe of those 623 people watching, some people down there. But now I want to, if I'm an NFL quarterback here, Kyle, I want to quiet the crowd down because we got something special about to come up here. 267, 268. Timeout on the field. We got quarterbacks ready to go. How's Drew Lock going to play? He's not going to play. You know what's going to take place in this game, Kyle? We are going to roll it back to like the 1920s and the 1930s. We're going to get into the wing T offense where the NFL says, we're going to show you guys that you need to wear a mask at practice because we're going to try to embarrass you on the football field. Short of getting John Elway down onto the field, short of the NFL being asked if a assistant football coach can actually play in the NFL. We saw it yesterday, Kyle. You know what my theory on this game should be is call the girl kicker from Vanderbilt, fly her in and put her at quarterback in this game to try to embarrass the NFL, which is what they're trying to do to the Denver Broncos. I don't agree with this move because if you waited one day, which is what the Denver Broncos are asking for, 3 of their 4 quarterbacks would clear protocol as long as they didn't test positive, and you could put on an NFL game. Why the NFL is saying you must play this football game and play it on Sunday, then we're going to fine you like $1 million and you're going to lose a 7th-round draft pick on top of that. If this was the Kansas City Chiefs, remember how it started out early? Oh my God, Cam Newton got COVID. We got to push the game back now because we have to make sure that New England has a quarterback that's able to play. It's embarrassing for the NFL to actually do this, but we got to cap this game because it's no longer a 6.5 that you were looking at earlier in the week with an over-under of around 44. 17 is now showing up on Pinnacle with an over-under of 36.5. Kendall Hinton is going to be the quarterback, quote unquote, who's going to just be able to go out here and run a Wildcat offense. But the crux of the argument is we saw the Dallas Cowboys with Ben DiNucci, who was, I think, a quarterback in college. He couldn't play at all. So you're going to get basically the same type of quarterback play in this game from Kendall Hinton. Team total, Denver Broncos, 9, not 19, 9.5. Are you kidding me in the NFL?
It's just ridiculous. And again, we talked about this at the top of the show. What is the message this sends to teams, right? Okay, if you have 2 or 3, players with COVID, we're going to force you to play. We will do nothing to help you. We don't care who the players are. You're going to be trying to bring up your coaches to play quarterback. But if you do everything wrong and do everything we ask you not to do, we won't move your game just once. We will do it twice just for you. I mean, there's no reason this game couldn't be a doubleheader on Monday or a doubleheader on Tuesday. Even if the quarterbacks all still tested positive and they couldn't play, they at least could have a practice or two with this guy and sort of get a game plan together. Yep. Now you're calling up, Kendall Hinton, who basically was a quarterback in 2015 for Wake Forest. I know he played a couple years after that, but most of his action was in 2015 for Wake Forest. It just doesn't seem right. And listen, I am not a Denver Broncos fan. I love it when the Broncos lose. I cannot stand John Elway. But my God, this is absolutely ridiculous. Luckily, I took the Saints in a money line on my parlay earlier in the week because I didn't trust the 6.5. That's before the quarterback news, and they didn't drop it. They kept the action on it, so I'm happy about that. I mean, look at the totals now, 35.5. In the NFL, 16.5 point spread. Do I trust the Saints offense against Denver's defense? Denver's defense is a good defense, and you're still talking about the third string quarterback here for the Saints. So that all kind of feels like a trap. The only way I'm betting this game, and you would wanted to do it earlier in the week, is just kind of making it a money line parlay thing. I'm not taking the Saints by 17 points. I'm not doing that. I'm certainly not taking Denver because you don't know what the hell you're going to get from the quarterback spot. I do think that defense in the running game is viable enough where something can happen. But it's just all disgusting. It's an absolute embarrassment for the NFL. I think it's ridiculous, and I think you see teams now. They're going to purposely up their COVID totals because they're not going to want to get screwed like Denver did. It doesn't make any damn sense. It's like getting mad at your son comes in and didn't clean his room. Your daughter comes in and she stole from the grocery store. You ground your son for a month and you take your daughter shopping. Doesn't make any damn sense. Bad job by the NFL, but what do you expect from Roger Goodell? Been an incompetent disciplinarian for a long time. And don't expect anything different now.
It's kind of interesting because one would have thought that the Denver Broncos could have said, look, find us $500,000. We'll write a check to charity. Move the game back one day. We can all win in this situation, and you get a competent football team out of here. It's just interesting they go that way. But the 9.5 as a team total is just amazing to me. But the point you bring up is it's not Drew Brees coming to town. And I liked Taysom Hill last week, but you're right. He's still a backup third-string quarterback now asking to win by 21 points on the road, because the question comes in, can they win by 20? I mean, sure, they can win by 21, but if you have Taysom Hill as your quarterback in the third quarter, Kyle, and you're up 14-3, and it's apparent that Denver can't move the ball, are you stretching this game out, or are you just turning around, handing off to Latavius Murray and letting the clock run? That 17-point line, I got to say, it has me interested. The over-under, not so much, because you need a competent quarterback in the NFL to score points. And we can always go back to the one guy we saw a couple weeks ago in primetime football here in Philadelphia, but we don't even have to mention names at this point anymore. It's an interesting number to look at, but I don't want to spend all that much time. It's a fun game, but as an overall handicapper, just spinning in my head, maybe you want to get in live if somebody's doing something in that game. It's a wild game to talk about, but we can't spend all day here. Got about 15 minutes before that 1 o'clock kickoff. Let's keep it moving here because there are some really good games, including one really good game that we're going to talk about in just a few moments. But the cavalry is back, Kyle, for your San Francisco 49ers. 269-270, Nick Mullins and Jared Goff. Overnight, the surge came in. Probably the biggest one was Trent Williams, who had COVID last Friday, doesn't practice all week, gets cleared last night, and he's going to suit up to play, at tackle, which is a huge deal going up against that front four for the Los Angeles Rams. Also getting back Deebo Samuel in this game, Raheem Mostert's activated, Jeff Wilson Jr. So you have some players coming back, and Kyle Shanahan get that little smile on his face. But the one I can't understand, you had a guy with COVID last Friday in Trent Williams, big boy, doesn't get the workout, he gets cleared. Brandon Ayuk doesn't have COVID, goes on that Friday, and he's not going to play in this football game. I don't know who are the protocols or who makes the decisions, what's in, or who's out. But I tell you what, I actually like this line. It was at 6.5. It's now 5.5. I think they play them extremely hard. And looking at this over under 44.5, I think it goes over the total as well, even though the Rams, to me, don't always play to overs with their offense. But I think you get a little bit more competent offense now with some of these guys back, because anytime you have Raheem Mostert healthy in your backfield, that is a home run waiting to happen, which they haven't had for quite a few weeks. We'll see if Jordan Reed gets back at tight end. You have the semblance in this game of a pretty good offense now, as long as you get an honest effort out of Nick Mullins. I like the points in this game, fresh off a bye. Rams played Monday Night Football across the country in a big game that they had circled. Now coming back into that sterile atmosphere of the Dome, I do think we get some points. And by the way, Kyle, can San Francisco practice and play at your house next week?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on with my Look, I want to take the 49ers to win this, and I know that Kyle Shanahan out-schemes McVay more often than not. The Rams are just too good defensively. I'm worried about the effort you're going to get out of Nick Mullins. Now they're trying to figure out where the hell they're going to play their home games next week and the week after. Probably going to see it in Arizona, I would guess, is probably. I know early in the year they were talking about this, where the Niners might not be able to play in Santa Clara, and it was Dallas and Arizona, which were the two popular spots. So you could see them play. I don't know the exact schedules, the home games and everything else, but it's a problem, and it's distracting. Now, Kyle Shanahan's a fantastic coach for my money. He's one of the top 3 coaches in the league, and I think he's the best play caller in the NFL. Just the Rams have too much talent. They can cover you across the board. They can stop the run. They can rush the passer. They can run the football a little bit. They've got 3 very good wide receivers. Even if one of their tight ends miss, it's really about which Jared Goff do you get. I was encouraged by what I saw against Tampa Bay last week. I think now that this number has dropped a little bit and it's under a touchdown here, so the Rams do have some kicking issues, so you sort of worry when it's over 6, missed extra point here, etc. Now that's down to 5. I feel a little bit better about that. It's so weird how betting has changed now, where the 5 feels like a 6 used to feel because of the extra point, 2-point conversion stuff. It really does. It's very interesting. But I got to take the Rams. I want to take my 49ers. I know the Rams is another square pick, as they would say here, but I still don't trust my 49ers quite enough, and I just think that Rams defense is too good. I like what I saw last week, so I'll take the Rams.
And I can't disagree, because obviously you are getting the better football team with the Rams, but something about that Kyle Shanahan offense, getting some of these players back, we'll see what happens here. Would have been really nice to have Ayuk back as opposite of Deebo Samuel, sort of get the boys back together, but we'll see what happens in that game as it pulls through. 271, 272, possibly the game of the day, the one I'm most interested in, rated 425, Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. That game's going to take place down in Tampa. No weather conditions. Isn't that nice, Kyle? We've been through about a dozen games so far. We haven't talked about the weather really once, except for saying, boy, it's really good weather for this time of the year.
Yeah.
Usually always nice in Tampa Bay, but no precipitation that we're worried about. 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on Kansas City, opened up at 3 early in the week. Now we're seeing the 3.5s across the board. I don't disagree with that, because when you're looking at Kansas City under a touchdown, we just factor on they win, even though they don't, but it just seems like they win every game. And you say to yourself, why do I keep doing this to myself and betting against Kansas City in these type situations? Because you're hoping that Tampa Bay's defense can play up to the capabilities, hoping that Tom Brady is going to use his elite weaponry the way they're supposed to be used. And then you get games where you say, the hell were they doing? Like last week, Brady was terrible against the Rams, throwing 2 disastrous interceptions. A couple weeks before that, in the New Orleans game, they were horrible on offense. But this defense isn't as good as the Rams defense, or obviously as good as the New Orleans defense. So now you're going to look at Tom Brady, should get extra time. Here's the key ingredient in this game. Chris Jones is a wonderful defensive tackle, one of those top 5 guys in the NFL. Ali Marpet is due back for this game for the Buccaneers, who's missed the last 2 weeks. And that's the guy that's going to hold down the stalwart of that offensive line in the middle to try to quell that defensive tackle pressure. You should have ample time to get Antonio Brown the football, obviously on the outside with Godwin and also Mike Evans. Gronkowski is going to be a blocking tight end today. You should be able to get those 2 running backs involved in the process. I do think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers put up some points in this game, but the fact is, I don't know if I can say I'm going to be able to lay Tom Brady in this game, because it just seems like you get that young athletic quarterback in Mahomes. He doesn't give a damn if your front 7 gets after it. He really doesn't care. You can pencil them in for, Kansas City scores 17 points. You'd be like, the world's ending tomorrow. I don't care what defense it is. He's going to put on a show. but I think Tom Brady can answer the bell. Still think the Chargers win this, the Kansas City Chiefs win. But the problem I'm having is that 56 number is high. But if they're both in the mid-20s, they should be able to get there. I'm going over. Even though it's square, give me the over 56 in this game.
Yeah, it's certainly no value, right? I mean,
Nope.
Good Lord. And look at this on the board. 2 games ago, we got a 36, and here we got a 56. Absolutely insane. But I think you're right. Look, here's the problem. The Kansas City Chiefs defense is very, very vulnerable. They're not a good defense. They have some talent there, but that's just not what they focus on, is the defensive side of the ball. And we saw it last week. I mean, they're lucky that the Raiders scored too fast, or they were going to lose the season series 2-0 to the Raiders last week. Now we get a nice low number because Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay, and it's Brady, and it's in Tampa. But I got to tell you, anytime I'm getting less than 4, I'm getting -3.5. So all the Chiefs have to do is win by 4. I mean, we paint the scenario all the time. Okay, Tampa Bay, Brady comes down, they're up by 3. The Chiefs have a minute 15, 1 or 2 timeouts. They go down, they win this game by 4. I just do not see a way that Tom Brady outduels Patrick Mahomes. No doubt about it, Tampa Bay has a more competent defense. Absolutely no doubt about it. There's a couple good players. You mentioned Jones and Bashaud Breeland, etc. I think you're right to take the over. There's no value there, so I personally stayed away from it. I did take the Chiefs -3.5. I just think they're the better football team. I think Mahomes is ready to play against an all-time great in Tom Brady. We saw those games, the Kansas City, New England games before. Those were a lot of fun. Mahomes was absolutely dynamic in those games. I think he's going to be great in this game. He's getting Sammy Watkins back as well. I like the Chiefs by 3.5. If I was going to take a total, of course, you're taking the over. But again, everything's got to go right. One long drive where Tampa Bay decides, hey, the Chiefs can't stop the run. The best way to beat this team is to run the football down their throat, and they rely on Ronald Jones. Then all of a sudden, you're real nervous about that over. But I think you're right. You lean the over, and I'm taking the Chiefs 3.5. I don't care if that's square or not. I'm not trusting. I've seen the Tampa Bay get stomped on at home twice now. Why wouldn't I take the Chiefs?
Yeah, the only thing you're asking for is Brady to answer the bell against Kansas City's defense, which he should be. There's so many weapons on that team. Sometimes I think they try to force feed a few different guys. I do think they'll score, and 56 is a hell of a number, but I would be really shocked if one of these teams ends up in the teens in this game. So if they don't, I think we're going to get a shootout in some nice weather. Watkins is healthy in this game. It's full go for both of these teams on offense with their skill position players, and that's certainly going to be a boom. Take a look at the night game here. And a lot of hate in my heart for guys like Mitchell Trubisky. So sometimes I can't get a clear cap on these games, Kyle. 273, 274, Trubisky and Aaron Rodgers. Cooler condition weather there in Green Bay. Mitchell Trubisky doesn't throw it all that well, so maybe that helps him because he's somewhat mobile. But that offense really hasn't been able to punch its way out of a paper bag all season. Over-under opens up here at 44.5, now goes to 45 at some outlets, but also seeing FanDuel here in New Jersey at a 44 even. Line, which we saw as high as 9 to 9.5, has dipped back down to 8. I'm going to see where that actually ends up here, because if it gets around that 7 number, which I don't know if it will get there, I lean towards Green. Green Bay is a very soft football team. The one thing we know is Chicago, as bad as they are, that's not a soft football team specifically on defense. They'll be able to harass Aaron Rodgers, but is Mitchell Trubisky going to be able to make enough plays to keep up with the Green Bay Packers? Even if the Green Bay Packers, Kyle, can notch 24 points in this game, I think they're going to be able to cover against Chicago, because I don't think they have all that much to play competent football with on the offensive side of the ball. Right now, I would take Green Bay by double digits in this game.
Yeah, me as well. And real quick, let me address this. I don't know why people come in the chat and give fake information. Austin Eckler is not out. He is in. I'm going through and looking for new notifications now, so I don't know where you're finding that, and don't thank him for that. He's wrong, and Austin Eckler is playing. That's just not cool to do when we're all trying to be a team.
Kyle, I actually put that out because I want a better number on the Chargers. So
there you go. Fair enough. But no, Austin Eckler is playing today, and some reports saying he's going to get a significant amount of carries as well today. But yeah, you're right. Now, I actually don't mind the over in this game, the over 44.5. We have seen Trubisky. Maybe he's motivated. He does have some athletic ability. So, and the Green Bay defense cannot stop the run. They're getting David Montgomery back for the Bears, so that's certainly an upgrade there. But you're right. Lambeau Field, some weather conditions, Trubisky, Aaron Rodgers. You got to take the Packers by double digits. I know we only have a few minutes left here, and we want to get to some picks here. So I'll make it short and sweet. You can't trust Mitchell Trubisky. Take Aaron Rodgers at home. I'll take the Packers by double digits. I'm right there with you. And I think I slightly lean the over 44.5.
Yeah, we'll go super square on that game. There's no reason not to do that. But we got about 5 minutes left to go before kickoff. Let's get it. I got a little 3-pack here I want to get after because I do want to cheer on points. And, me and Kyle have these other things that we do. We talk about, we love pain in betting and sports gambling and DFS. So I'm going to take 2 games here to start with at the 1 o'clock hour. Carolina, I have 3.5, so I can't take 3.5 since we're all watching a live show. It's 3 now. I do think Carolina is eligible to win this football game and think they can. I'll lean on the 3 points in that game going up against the Minnesota Vikings. I'm also going to take the over 51 in the Tennessee-Indianapolis game. I think we get some points there in the Dome. Both of these teams end up in the 20s, but I want some pain. 405, I am signed up for the Denver Broncos team total over 9.5.
Oh, shit.
You need like a fumble. You need like an interception to get them good position, a fluky type play, because all you're asking for basically here, Kyle, is 1 touchdown out of the Denver offense. That's all you're asking for, because McManus is good in nice weather in Denver from 60 yards and in, which would give you that field goal. I need 1 touchdown. I think you can stumble into a touchdown in the NFL, and I'm going to take the team total over 9.5 for the Denver Broncos, and I can't wait to watch it. Go ahead.
Oh, boy, I love that. Well, I'm right there with you on Carolina. It's one of my favorite plays of the day. I think Carolina can win that game outright, and they think they probably do. I like the Raiders -3 on the road, 3.5 across the board there that you're seeing against Atlanta in Atlanta. I like that play quite a bit today. I like the Chiefs -3.5. I think you can lock that in against Tampa Bay. And I will say, since I like a little bit of pain and we're talking bad teams, I will take the Jets over 19.5 team total.
Yes.
I think they get into the 20s today. I think that's a fun game in Miami. Good luck to everybody today.
Now, everybody in the chat box was wonderful today. As high as 650 people watching, still 553 people watching live. The support that you guys give us on the networks here at sportsbookreview.com, we certainly don't, ever let that slip each and every day. So we thank you guys for doing that. 75,000 people subscribe. We're headed on our way to 100,000. Some big things going on in the future. Great guys across every single thing that we do. College basketball, college football, the NFL. It's all here. Fight, soccer, you name it. We got it covered here. And everybody that does it plays their part and is always passionate, but we can't do it without you guys in the chat box. Awesome stuff as we log off today. Closing line, week 12 NFL action. I'm Donnie Seymour. He is Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com. And you guys, good luck today on your wagers. And we'll see you back tomorrow for the live betting telecast.